So, we will move on to singular random variables. So, the singular random variables are fundamentally different type. This is another fundamentally different type of random variable, right. This is neither discrete nor continuous, nor are they some mixture of these two. Okay. This is probably something you would not have encountered so far. The reason that people do not encounter it so far is because it is very bizarre and not so much of real world use, right. And for that reason I will not spend too much time on it. Okay. I will just tell you what it is, what it looks like. It is interesting for intellectual purposes and for academic purposes, but it is not of great practical use in engineering or statistics, but it is a very, it is mathematically it is a perfectly valid probability measure on R. Okay. So, the way it works is, so let us see what it could be, right. So, a singular random variable is something that lies between a discrete random variable and a continuous random variable. So, a discrete random variable puts all its measure on some countable set, right. All the probability measure sits on a countable set, finite or accountably infinite. A continuous random variable on the other hand, so on every countable set it has to put measure 0, very clear, right. Not only that, it has to put 0 measure on all Lebesgue measure 0 sets, right. So, even if you have a Cantor set, for example, any continuous random variable should have 0 probability on the Cantor set. Why? That is the definition, right. So, the singular random variable, so what it does is that it does not put, it puts 0 probability on all singletons, just like a continuous random variable, but it puts all the probability 1 on a 0 Lebesgue measure set, an uncountable set of Lebesgue measure 0. Okay, that is how it works, right. So, discrete random variable puts all its measure on a countable set, right. So, singular random variable puts all its measure on a uncountable, but Lebesgue measure 0 set, okay, such as the Cantor set, for example. So, let us define this. So, that is the definition of a singular random variable. So, for every singleton on the real line, it puts 0 probability. So, this is similar to a continuous random variable, right. A continuous random variable has to be takes 0 probability on singletons, right. But, so here is the difference from a continuous random variable, but there exists a Borel set F which is of 0 Lebesgue measure, which contains all the probability. So, this is the essential difference, because see, if you had a continuous random variable, if I tell you f is a Borel set such that lambda f is 0, you can immediately conclude that p x of f is 0, but a singular random variable puts all its probability on some Borel set of an uncountable set of 0 Lebesgue measure. Now, why am I saying this? So, this f has to be necessarily this f has to be necessarily uncountable, right. I have not said it in the definition. Why? See, because if f were countable, see, all singletons have 0 probability. So, if f were countable, f will have 0 probability, countable additivity, right. So, although you do not you have not said this in the definition, you do not have to, but it is clear that F is an uncountable set of 0 Lebesgue measure which contains all the probability, all right. This is clear, and so you already know, I mean if you want to give an example of this, what would you do? So, you already know an example of such an F, right, which is your Cantor set. Cantor set is 0 Lebesgue measure, right. So, this is fine, and you are looking for some measure on the Cantor set, you are looking for some measure which is sitting entirely on the Cantor set such that singletons have 0 probability, right. So, that is called a Cantor random variable, and its distribution is called a Cantor distribution. Okay. It is a very bizarre distribution. So, it is as though, so you remember the Cantor set, right, it has this fractal property, you remove all these middle thirds sequentially, and you take that scattering of points, this Cantor set, and you smear a uniform distribution on that Cantor set. Okay, it is very difficult to imagine what it would be like, right. So, on the Cantor set you are putting some kind of a uniform measure, that is what this is. So, if you want yeah, so the example is a Cantor distribution or Cantor random variable. So, the way it works, I will show a picture in a little bit. So, you remember this, so the CDF will look like this. Okay. So, let us say this is my 0 1 interval, you know the middle third would have been knocked off, right, in the Cantor set. So, what you do, so at 1 it has to end up at 1, right. So, that is the CDF has to end up at 1, at 0 it starts off at 0, and it is uniform on the Cantor set in some sense, because so if you knock off this middle third, half the probability is sitting on this side, half the probability is sitting on this side. So, what should be the value of the CDF? 1 by 2, right. So, here in this interval it will be 1 on 2, so half. Okay. Now, similarly this guy also gets chopped up, right, middle third of this interval gets chopped up, and similarly it has a fractal property, right. So, the value here should be half of what this is, right. So, this if this is half and that is 1, here it should be a fourth, 1/4, and similarly here should be 3/4, and you keep doing this, right. Then you will have a little segment here, little segment here, and so on, right. So, what you end up with is a perfectly valid cumulative distribution function. I am trying to show a picture here, I think it is called, let us see. So, if I can pull this up, so you see this function here, right, this is the Cantor distribution, this is how it looks. In fact, I think if you go down, this is the Wikipedia page on the Cantor function. See, this graphic actually shows how it is built up sequentially. So, you start off with the middle half, and then you put 2 more, and then you put 4 more, 8 more, and then you keep doing this and you get that function. Okay. So, that is your CDF of the Cantor random variable. This is neither, so this has, you can show that this has probability 0 on all singletons, but it is not continuous either, because all the measure is sitting on the Cantor set. Okay. So, this function, this is a perfectly valid CDF, okay, because it starts off at 0, ends up at 1, it is actually continuous, it is not just right continuous, it is in fact continuous. Why is it continuous? Yeah, so this is continuous because, see, you remember if the CDF is continuous at any point, that is equivalent to saying the probability of that point is 0, right. Now, I am saying all singletons have 0 probability. So, which means for all x this is a continuous function. It does not look, I mean it looks a bit bizarre, but it is actually continuous everywhere, it does not have a single discontinuity. Okay. It is continuous everywhere, and but its the problem is it is not absolutely continuous. If it is absolutely continuous, you will have a continuous random variable. Okay, it is not, and it is not differentiable, except it is only differentiable on these kind of segments where the derivative is 0. So, it increases without a derivative, but it does not jump. You see, it does not jump at all, it is a continuous function, right, but it does not have derivative everywhere, and it increases in those points where it does not have a derivative, but it increases without jumps, right. So, which is the bizarre thing about this function. So, this function is called devil's staircase for whatever reason, some people call this devil's staircase. I think it is a very terrible name, because not because of the devil part, but because it is not a staircase is discontinuous, right, but this is a continuous everywhere function, it has no discontinuities whatsoever. Okay. So, anyway, so this is just for some amusement value, right. I have not seen a serious application of this kind of a singular random variable or singular distribution anywhere. Cantor set does not contain intervals. Yes, it sits on the Cantor set, that is what I am saying, right. So, it is an uncountable set. So, Cantor set is an uncountable set, and all the measure is sitting on this Cantor set, which is of 0 Lebesgue measure. See, you can see a discrete random variable, all the measure is sitting on a countable set. So, that is something very easy to imagine for you, right. For example, if I tell you that all the measure is sitting on the rationals, it may not be so easy to imagine, but it is okay, right. You can say that q and q2 is now all this measure is sitting not on a countable set, but it is all sitting on the Cantor set, right, and that is the CDF. It is not, yeah, it is made up of, so it has an uncountable number of singletons, and each of which has probability 0. Okay. But if you ask me what the probability of I do not know, some interval 0 1/3 is, I will say it is half, right. You can assign, just like, I mean, for any Borel set this assigns a probability just like any random variable. Okay. If you ask me what the probability of the interval somewhere here is, it will be 0, because there are no Cantor points here, right. So, it assigns probabilities to Cantor points in some uniform way, right. So, you can think of having a uniform distribution in 0 1, writing it in binary, flipping 1s to 2s and putting the measure on the Cantor set, right, because I mean it is the same thing, right. It is like a uniform distribution on the Cantor set, which you can say you generate a uniform distribution on 0 1, write it in binary, flip all 1s to 2s, interpret it as a ternary, and that will be your random variable, right. That is the way to generate a Cantor random variable.
So, is this like addition of uncountable number of zeros which is getting added to 1?
That is true in continuous random variables also, right. Continuous random variables also, all singletons have 0 probability, and you do have that the total probability sitting on the interval, let us say 0 1, that you are able to buy, right. But now the problem is that the measure is sitting on a 0 length set, correct, it is not sitting on an interval. Okay. Are there any questions? That is all I will say about this. Okay, this is just for amusement value, I guess. So, but it is not really just for amusement value, because it is a fundamentally different type of a random variable, which normally people do not even talk about, because it does not have too many applications, but I think it is good for us to know that, I mean, there are these bizarre objects also, right, and any measure whatsoever, any probability measure on R can be decomposed into one of these 3 or some combinations thereof, right. There are 7 qualitatively different types of probability measures on R, right, discrete, continuous, singular, or take 2 at a time, 3 of those, and then you are taking all 3 at a time, right. Any questions?
So, like combination of continuous and singular but it is actually disturbed because what the characters of continuous is not satisfied here. So how can we combine singular and continuous?
Just like you can combine discrete, so you can, for example, just how do you do combine, I mean what is a random variable which is mixture of discrete and continuous, let us say. So you can put some of your probability mass on discrete points, right. You may put some discrete atoms on, let us say 0, half or something. So you put some discrete atoms, whatever these atoms add up to, the remaining mass you smear it over some interval or whatever, right. So just like that you can take, let us say a continuous random variable, put some mass on it, and the remaining mass you smear it over a Cantor set, something like that, right. Remaining probability measure you smear it, or you can do all three, right. You put one mass somewhere, put some of the mass on an interval, and whatever remains you put on something like the Cantor set, right. That will be a mixture of all three, right. It's just that this measure of one has to be split between some countable set, some intervals, and some 0 Lebesgue measure uncountable sets, right. That is all there is. Sorry, yeah, so I mean this is just an example, right. So this is not the Cantor random distribution, is just one example of a singular distribution. So you can take any Lebesgue measure 0 set, uncountable Lebesgue measure 0 set, and put your probability on it, that will be a singular random variable.
There are many uncountable sets. If it puts on one uncountable set 0, probability 1.
Then there is no probability left, right. So it has to be a singular random variable, correct. So if you put only half the measure on a Cantor set and then the rest of the half you put it on an interval, then it will be a combination of continuous and singular, right, and so on, that is it. Okay, any more questions? Okay. So next I want to move on to the topic of sigma algebras generated by a random variable. Okay. We have studied sigma algebras generated by collections of subsets, right. So given some collection C of subsets, we know what sigma of C means, right. It is the smallest subset, smallest sigma algebra containing all the sets in C. Now we are going to talk about the sigma algebra generated by a random variable. Okay, I am going to tell you what that is. By a random variable x. Okay, suppose x is a random variable on omega fp. So our favorite picture here, this is your omega f and p, and you have your real line and your x maps like that, right. And because this is a random variable, you take any Borel set, its pre-image, if you look at its pre-image, let us say that is your pre-image, the pre-image of every Borel set is an event by definition. Now you consider for each Borel set here, okay, you consider all those pre-images of Borel sets, okay, that is a collection of subsets here, right. Now we can what we can show is that, see, this Borel sigma algebra is a sigma algebra on R, and you are looking at all these Borel sets and taking pre-images here. So you are looking at the pre-image of the Borel sigma algebra on this sample space, okay, that you can show is a sigma algebra also, okay. So in particular, so in notation I want to write as follows. So, there is a homework problem that you did, right. So, if you have, so just like this, right. So, if you have a function from, so you have omega f p and you have another measurable space, you have a function from one to the other, the pre-images of all measurable sets here will form a sigma algebra on this set. This is a homework problem number 5 or something in your tutorial 1, if you remember, right. So, if you look at all those sets, consider the collection of subsets. So, I have a subset of omega for which A is equal to x inverse b for some b in B, Borel. Consider this. So, you are taking Borel sets and you are looking at the pre images A. So, these A's are subsets of omega, right. So, these are all collections of subsets of the sample space, correct. So, you let us call this something. Okay. So, you can show that, can show this collection of subsets is a sigma algebra on omega. Right, this is something you have already shown in your homework, right. If you take pre images of a measurable set sigma algebra, you will get a sigma algebra. Okay. So, you agree that this collection of subsets of omega is a sigma algebra on omega, everybody with me. But because x is a random variable, each one of these sets is also f measurable, correct, yes or no. So, what can we conclude? Not only is this a sigma algebra, it is a sub sigma algebra of f. Since x is a random variable, the above sigma algebra is contained in f. Okay. And this is called the sigma algebra generated by the random variable x. Okay. It is denoted by sigma of capital X. So, is this clear? So, I am taking the pre image of all Borel sets on the real line, looking at its pre image here. I know it must be a sigma algebra, but because x is a random variable, that sigma algebra must be a sub sigma algebra of f. It may be f itself or it could be something smaller, right, correct. So, that is called the sigma algebra generated by the random variable x. Okay. So, this is an important concept and it is good to know at this stage. So, essentially the sigma algebra sigma x contains all the all subsets of omega which are pre images of Borel sets, okay. And intuitively sigma of x contains all those events whose occurrence or non occurrence is completely determined by the realization of x, right. So, when omega realizes, I know which Borel sets occurred and which Borel sets did not occur, right, when x is realized here, right. So, and for the pre images I know for every set in sigma x I know which events occurred and did not occur, right. So, its sigma x is consists of those subsets of omega whose occurrence or non occurrence is completely determined by the realization of x. Okay. Okay, so I will stop here.